economic hardships. A total of 1.63 trillion shillings was restructured as of December 2020, which translates to about 54% of all loans. To help us unpack this and what trends will shape credit trends, my colleague Brian George is standing by and has more.
Me now is one person who has carved out a niche 25 years on in matters of financing of small and medium enterprises, and he is Peter Macharia, the CEO, Managing Director of Jijenge Credit, has a master's degree in business administration from Kenya Methodist University and a lot more other experience which he is going to offload right here for us. Welcome. Thank you so much, sir, for finding time for us on the show.
Thank you.
All right, so we want to dive right in. We've seen the second lockdown taking effect on SMEs. What would this lockdown have, what effect would the lockdown have on SMEs in the long term now that it's coming at a second time?
Thank you, Brian. The second lockdown will come with its own challenges, because it's like getting a double dose of something, because as we can all remember, we had the first lockdown, which had its own ramifications. And now the second one is on, and I can assure you that it's going to have some permanent and maybe in some organizations temporary challenges. The first challenge would be, of course, the new norm of people working from home. That's a new. It's a new way that organizations are trying to catch up with, so that the spread of COVID can be managed and the risk is mitigated well.
Wow, that's quite a telling picture right there of the SMEs and the situation they're in right now. But I want us to paint a picture of, and we are allowed to speculate here because of the observations we make. I want us to paint a picture of which industries and which SMEs perhaps will be affected, just taking stock, which ones will gain and which ones may lose during this second lockdown, sir.
Thank you very much. There are some organizations that are making a field day financially during this lockdown. Number one is the SMEs that are in the medical industry or medical supplies. Most of the chemists, hospitals, we all know most hospitals are fully packed. The ICUs are full. And on the flip side, there are organizations that have had the hardest hit on COVID. A good example is the tourism and the hotel industry. Most of the hotels are closed, or if not closed, they are only running on either half or quarter operational methods. Maybe the ones that are operating are only doing takeaways, but none of them are doing in-house sitting because of the medical risks of COVID.
Which is really the nature of Kenyans. Food consumption is best at the physical place where it is being served. But I want us to also look at some sort of ray of hope that they can have. We can't just take the lockdown and its effects lying down and say, we've been beaten now, we just need to stay there. What are some of the ways that they can mitigate the effects of this lockdown and to stay afloat?
Thank you, Brian. One of the main ways of mitigating COVID repercussions, especially for micro, small and medium enterprises, is to come up with a good saving culture. Because savings is meant to cushion you when times are hard. The other method is to be innovative. I've just mentioned to you that hotels that were used to having sit-arounds or sit-ins are now doing takeaways. Because they have got salaries to maintain, they've got rent, they've got operation overheads. And of course, food is being farmed and it needs to be consumed. And the third method is to come up with or embrace technology.
Wow.
The aspect of working at home, you need to have now good internet bundles, efficient communication methods, and set up the operational systems of an organization in such a way that some members of staff can work from home and others can work from the office.
Great. Let me now bring it back to you as a creditor and as a practitioner in the financing industry. What has the business environment looked like, particularly at this time? Are there defaults, and what are some of the non-performing loans, and how have you been handling clients who have non-performing loans, if there are any?
Thank you, Brian. At Jijenge Credit, of course, we are going through what most organizations, financial organizations worldwide are going through.
Okay.
Number one is most of the facilities, most of the loans are having a challenge because if we may look at the retail segment, most of the employers have retrenched the employees, or they put them on half pay because of incomes and the COVID-19 repercussions. And therefore, by and large, that one affects the ability to service a facility by our borrowers who are employed. And therefore, the negative impact of that is that as an organization, as Jijenge Credit, we are usually forced to either reschedule the facility or offer them rebates or even suspend interest and installment payments.
How are you finding that for business, suspending interest? I mean, you're in business at the end of the day. How are you finding it?
Of course, it's impacting negatively on our margins and bottom line.
Okay.
However, because in a few moments ago, I've told you that most organizations need to have a good savings and a good way of mitigating their operational expenses. We have had to embrace that, so to be able to accommodate all these customers that are having challenges for the long haul.
Wow. Thank you so much for painting that picture for us. So, in your own estimation, would it be a good time to issue loans to SMEs? And what would be the conditions really to issue them loans to perhaps stay afloat with the few customers that are still there?
Thank you. At Jijenge, we are still lending.
Okay.
And all times, there's no good or bad time for lending. What matters most is the applicant. Does the applicant have a good business plan or a good plan for the money that they are borrowing? Currently, there are two sets of applicants that we are going through, that we are receiving. Number one is those ones who have good plans that are workable and that are being operationalized. A good example of those ones are the ones in the supply and the hospitality industry, or rather the ones in the food chain industry. Those ones still need to keep feeding the nation. Number two, the other segment that is still applying for facilities are the ones in the medical line. Medicine needs to be imported. Medicine needs to be supplied to hospitals. And of course, the ones that are running hospitals or health facilities, those ones are still applying for facilities.
For facilities.
On the flip side, if you apply a facility and you are retrenched, like maybe 3 months or 6 months down the line, those are facilities that you are declining because you don't have the ability to service the facility or to pay the facility.
Wow, I can imagine, and that's an unsecured loan, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Great. So that said, once you give a loan to an SME at this particular time, what advice would you give them as an enabling business and a caring business partner, for that matter, to manage the loan properly so that they ensure that the cash flows are good and your repayment is secured?
Thank you, Brian. We at Jijenge Credit, we offer business consultancy services for free.
Wow.
And because almost 70 to 80% of our loan applicants are business, we prefer to, we always like taking them through on ways that will secure their borrowing and enable them pay back the facility without any hitches. And some of the ways that we usually tell them is before you borrow the facility, sit down and plan, budget, and come up with a good business strategy. Once you have that, you're now ready to borrow the facility, and you'll have a good chance of repaying the facility without experiencing any financial challenges during the repayment period.
Amazing. That's That's quite interesting. So you have 25 years experience in the finance industry. What are some of the features that constitute a good loan for a business?
Thank you, Brian. Yes, I've got, rather I was employed for a cool 25 years in the banking industry before I set up the microfinance. And some of the qualities of a good business facility is number one. If it's a startup, it should be well planned. You should do proper research. You should do a lot of comparatives and a lot of study on that particular field of business. Then number two, have a peer or a mentor, a peer person or a mentor to hold your hand in case of in case you've experienced any headwinds or turbulence along the way. You need to have someone you can walk to, call, and they'll be willing and ready to take you through the challenges that you're experiencing in the business because they're experienced. And the third one is that you must be ready to operate the business without any income when things get tough, like now during the COVID period.
Wow, that's great, good to hear. About last year, towards the end of the year, the government launched an ambitious government credit guarantee scheme. Let's take it back to the regulator. Who is the government? I mean, really, has the government provided any means of, supporting SMEs and equally financiers at this time that the economy is taking a beating?
Thank you, Brian. Yes, the government of the day is really doing its best to manage and ensure that the business environment is excellent for all the businesses.
Okay.
Because all governments, including our current government, they would wish to have a stable business environment because it is from the same business people that they get taxes,
True.
that employment is created, and opportunities and maybe export facilities and the enabling balance of payment environment comes from a good and stable business environment. Therefore, from my end, the government is doing the best it can. It has set up different funds. They've also engaged several donor partners to support businesses.
True.
And you can see even different government arms like KRA, CBK, they're also supporting and trying to make the business environment as conducive as possible.
Wow, great. Talk to us about what a post-COVID recovery would look like for small and medium enterprises and equally the finance sector. What do you foresee happening in the run-up towards a recovery, and how long could that take?
Thank you, Brian. A post-COVID recovery scenario would be, number one, I would like to say that Kenyans are very resilient, and Kenyan businessmen and women are very, very, very hopeful and open-minded, and therefore it will take a very short moment for them to recover and to restore their business turnovers and their businesses to where they were like 1 or 2 years ago. And therefore, it calls for a lot of hope, a lot of prayers, and the Kenyan spirit to have the business environment go back to where it was 2 years ago.
Great. In that case, how should small and medium enterprises prepare for a reopening of the economy once these lockdowns have been lifted? How should they prepare really in terms of supplies and business operations and the new work models, people working from home? How should small and medium enterprises prepare?
Small and medium enterprises should prepare by ensuring that they keep the contacts that they had 2 years ago should be kept safely, and they should be kept alive. If you had suppliers in China, Europe, America, maintain those contacts.
Sure.
And also the second item is be informed how the forex is operating, the dollar, so that those fluctuations of the dollar and the foreign currency, you should be up to speed with them, so that once you start restocking, you know the number of stock items that you're going to import, the sale price, and all the numbers that you require in your business, so that you don't make a loss. Yes.
Your final, as we go towards an end, your final words on this, would you advise someone to start a business right now, and why?
Thank you, Brian. Yes, as long as you are not having a stable employment, my advice is don't stay at home.
Okay.
Think outside the box, be innovative, start a business, however small it could be. If you are a chef, maybe in the hotels that have closed, you have the skill in your hands. Bake cakes, biscuits, sell them within the flat or the estate or your neighborhood. Samosas the same, sausages the same. Sell. Go to the nearest market, sell them, deliver them to different homes and all that.